And greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Again, a reminder, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There's a PayPal link down below for anybody that wants to share some love. And, of course, the StreamYard link is there for anybody who wants to join the panel. Tonight, we're going to talk about that driver's license again. And as you can see, it says driver's license in lieu of bail. And why would they do that? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to review a video that I did, again, another video that I did a while back on this very topic. Driver's license in lieu of bail. So we're going to review this video, and then we'll go ahead and anybody that wants to look it up, we'll go ahead and look it up in your state. We'll just let me know what state, and we'll go through and we'll punch in the state and look up the driver's license in lieu of bail. Because what we're talking about here is the Uniform Commercial Code. And the Uniform Commercial Code, as I explained yesterday, is the bottom tier of the commercial contracting clauses at your state level. So these are your state statutes. At the federal level, they're the U.S. Code. At the international level, they're the Incoterms. And then all three of those at the state level are chartered under the state's constitution, and then the federal U.S. Code is chartered under the federal constitution, and then of the international Incoterms are chartered under the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union. They're all coinciding throughout all jurisdictions. It is uniform, and all you have to do is understand that they're contract clauses, and that if you're part of the contract, then they apply. If you're not, they apply to you. If you're not, then all you have to do is distinguish who they apply to and what your part in it is. So again, remember the contracts are according to a trust. So you have to put your position in a trust first. If you're not a public officer in public trust, then you're something else. What is that? So let's take a look at this. And again, the StreamYard link is down there for anybody who wants to join panel. Would always be appreciated. And like I said, when we get done, we'll go ahead and do some research on the states to find out where it's at in your state.
Good afternoon, everybody. Keith here. Hoping you're all having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. As you can see by the heading on the post, we're talking about driver license in lieu of bail. Imagine that. Remember, if you saw my video last night, we spoke about a number in lieu of the name and address. And that's basically what we're doing. So,
greetings, ascent of mind.
Attention. We're going to go over Keith? Regards to in lieu of bail. And one of the biggest problems that we have in today's society in regards to bail is these traffic citations and everything. And they, on the bottom, they tell you an appearance bond of some sort. And that's what we're going to look at in regards to bail and traffic tickets being minor ones.
So what they're doing is they're placing an obligation on that instrument that you're signing, that you're taking, you're undertaking. We'll call it undertaking. It's an undertaking because it's a decedent. That instrument is a decedent. It's got a name on there, a name and a number, and that's a decedent. That is the bailment, as we spoke of here not too long ago about what bail is and everything. The bailment is that instrument. It's the mentality of bail, mentality of bonding.
Whether you're arrested or not, a regular traffic ticket has a bail amount on it. And when we look at various different states, and I've brought this one up before, I've looked at Minnesota, Missouri, Michigan, and you can just tag in, just put in your search engine, depositing driver, or put driver's license in lieu of bail, and then your state.
And notice that says depositing driver's license in lieu of bail. So that's indicating that you're depositing a financial instrument into a financial institution as a matter of an accounting of the events. That's all it is. Everything is financial.
But state code and then driver's license in lieu of bail in your search engine and see what you come up with. So far, I think there's only 20 states that actually have it on the books. But when it comes...
And also notice it says violation of traffic ordinance of incorporated municipality. All the municipalities that are chartered are incorporated. If you run across a township that is not incorporated, on their sign, if they have one, it will say unincorporated.
To equality of the law among the states, we're talking about all 50 states, because if one state determines that it has superior standing in equity, in other words, if it's fairer to the people than previous laws or laws of other states, then it can carry over into those other states.
And that's what I was talking about yesterday. The law is uniform throughout all jurisdictions. So when one state, through its uniform commercial code, creates a legislated code that is more beneficial in the eyes of the state, then the other states will take upon that same code and adopt it or its writing in a basic form. And once a certain number of those states come together with that same uniform commercial code, then they can present it to the federal government for legislation at the federal level.
Superior fairness of it carries over into the other states. And so we're talking about depositing driver license in lieu of bail in certain cases. Violation of traffic ordinance of incorporated municipality. And the reason I pulled this one up, this is Alabama. This is the first state of the union, and they have this depositing driver's license, but they actually put it violation of traffic ordinance of incorporated municipality. So what does that tell you? It tells you they're running a corporate traffic system, and that if you're not involved in that corporation.
And notice it says, again, of incorporated municipalities. So that's the ordinance that you're actually violating. That is a underwriting of the state statute. So they'll get you for a municipal code and subject you to a state statute that is federally regulated in an international contract of a peace treaty of some sort somewhere. Today it's the United States Mexico-Canada agreement. It used to be, what was it? What was it before? It used to be, gosh, I can't remember it now. But the new one is the United States, Canada, Mexico agreement.
Depositing the driver's license in lieu of bail is giving up your incorporation.
But it's all based on that resident at the local municipal level. That's the false presumption, assumption, implication. That is not true. You are not a resident. It was never deemed necessary.
Your presumption of incorporation. This is a cancellation or a rescission of the driver's license in lieu of bail. Remember, it's all contracts, people. If you have that driver's license, it's officially recognized as a contract, even though, as I've spoken several times before, I've spoken several times on the fact that the driver's license certification is false. This is the process of a driver's license is a process of a series of transactions to bring about certain facts on the face of the record. Well, one of the first facts that they bring to the face of the record is they say that you're required to register your vehicle. It's not a vehicle. It's an automobile. Like I said, it comes from an automobile manufacturer.
This is another point where, again, I will not stand down from this. If you're making automobiles, but every MCO that you put out, manufacturer certificate of origin, says this motor vehicle, then you are already obfuscating the intent of the use of the term automobile by making it a commercial motor vehicle by that very term. Manufacturer certificate of origin, if you have one. This is, again, another reason why I say the title is not true. It cannot be true. The manufacturer can make an item, but I'll be damned if I don't buy an automobile and use it as a damn tape measure because it's got a thing on there called odometer. It goes to the use, and that goes to public use or private use.
And simply because they do an import-export trick with the United States and the states and the dealerships, they're imposing some kind of import duty when it actually hasn't been imported. I mean, if you've got an American automobile industry on the landmass, the only exporting they're doing is when they export it out of the country. How can you export it on the same landmass from an automobile manufacturer through fictional entities?
And what I'm talking about here is their territorial overlay. They say it's an import into the United States. Again, if the United States is located in Washington, D.C., and the car is manufactured in Detroit, Michigan, then it has to go to United States to be imported into the United States and then be exported into one of the other states. So if you have a manufacturer manufacturing automobiles in Detroit and they're being directly shipped to a car lot in Iowa, then it was not exported or imported through the United States. That is just the paperwork.
You can't.
Same with that birth certificate saying that you are a United States citizen. It is a false claim. I was never imported into the United States and then into Iowa. It was a manufacturer set of documentation, nothing more.
Those fictional entities only exist on paperwork, and you're not transporting it through the paperwork. You're transporting it over a landmass. Okay? So if you go from an automobile manufacturer that's in Detroit and it goes to Iowa from direct transport on a truck from the plant to Iowa, did it get imported to the United States? Not any sense other than the paperwork. And that's all it is, period. Plain and simple. You have the same right to do the same kind of paperwork. You don't have to have that officious third-party intermeddler claiming that it's imported when you can prove that it's not imported. It's a custom order. And that's why I spoke in my video yesterday. You don't need to go to these dealerships and pay cash or anything. They're not going to give the MCO. You go directly to the manufacturer and custom order it, so the MCO goes directly to you and not through some importer.
And even then, like I said, when you get that MCO and you custom order an automobile and they send you an MCO that says motor vehicle, you can have that corrected by denouncing that title. No longer titled property. It is protected property of private trust. None of your business what I use it for. It is not a motor vehicle.
And in order to do that, you have to express in your custom order that this isn't for import-export. You have an entrepot right to have it delivered to your door.
And that's, again, that purchase order. When you go to an automobile lot or an automobile dealership and they're the buyer and they give you that purchase order, again, like I said yesterday, the thought in that is that once you get done using the automobile that was sold to you as a fleet motor vehicle, then you are going to turn around and sell it to someone else. So as soon as you buy it, you are considered the seller.
And use a proxy address to do so. According to what they're saying.
And that proxy address is that 5-line address I was telling you about. Brother Keith in Ecclesia, care of Keith Orland Little FBU Trust, at such and such an address, the city, state, zip in square brackets, United States of America. That's the ship to party address under 19 CFR 149.3, where a buyer, seller, or ship to party can use a number in lieu of the name and address. The number that you use in lieu of the name and address is for the commercial dealings, whereas the address that you use to have the product shipped to you is outside of the contract and outside of the national address format.
Here, Mike, yes, you can deposit the driver license in lieu of bail. This is Alabama, and I don't have them all up here. But this is Mississippi code, and it says the same thing. This is Title 32, Section 3216 in there. Mississippi has it in Section 63, 925. But it says basically the same thing. Under the laws of any other state or territory of District of Columbia shall be arrested and charged with any offense against the traffic or motor vehicle laws or rules of the road of this state or any municipality thereof shall.
And that District of Columbia, that's your special maritime territorial overlay jurisdiction that we're talking about. 18 U.S.C. 7. And notice it said District of Columbia, States and District Columbia. That's that Uniform Commercial Code, which is a set of long arm statutes for at arm's length contracts.
I'll have the option. That's telling you right there. Remember, I told you yesterday in the last couple of videos, we always have an option. It's a matter of you determining what your option is. And they can't tell you what your options are. They will try to tell you that you don't have the option, that you have to pay bail. But you have to know what your options are. They're not going to tell you your options. So you have to comprehend. You have the option of depositing the driver's license.
And again, excuse me, since we're talking about equity in all matters, equity is your ability to create a remedy. So when they give you the options in these contracts, again, you have the unlimited power of contract, which means you can create new contract clauses in those contracts, just like the states can according to their Uniform Commercial Code. All you have to do is understand that every document that they give you is a negotiable instrument. Even that license that is in card form, that has minimum listing agreement requirements, a name, address, and a number of some sort that is going to give them access to money, property, labor, or services on credit. That's any card, plate, coupon book, or any other device used to do so. That license is such a card used to do so. It has a plate that you put on the back and the front of that automobile to coincide and correlate that information that leads to the state contract. But again, you are duped into doing so without being qualified to perform the functions of public office.
With the arresting officer or the court, in lieu of any other security which may be required for his appearance in any court in this state in answer to such charge lodged in such court. So comprehend what that's saying, people. If the officer knows this, which he likely doesn't, when he comes up and asks you for that driver's license, you could technically tell him you are giving him the license at that point in time, the now time, that I hereby transfer this instrument, this driver's license, in lieu of any bail that may be required from here to forthwith. If he doesn't understand that and walks back and tries to give it back to you, gladly accept it, because he probably isn't going to let you take off without it. But once he gives it back, once you stated that, that's clear evidence in on and for the record that you took that option and he took down the information. And if he took down the information in lieu of the instrument, that's on him. You gave it to him in lieu of the bail. He took the information and gave it back to you. He took the information for bail. Okay? You know how to assert that. You can stand on that. That's how that works. Whether he knows it or not.
So, again, what I'm saying here is if the states have a contract that says you can give a driver's license in lieu of bail, and you give that driver's license in lieu of bail, and he gives it back to you, that was the equal consideration. The bail has been paid. You loaned him the information, like we discussed this morning. You loaned him the information. It's a gift of God. Every breath you take is an act of God. Let it be known. Find your way to express that.
If you inform him prior that you are giving him possession of an instrument in lieu of bail, any bail that may be required from his issuing of any traffic citations, because they will have an appearance bond on there, and that appearance bond is a bail amount. Okay, It is a bail. That's Mississippi. This is Louisiana. Deposit of license in lieu of security. Again, just like this one.
In lieu of security. So now we know that they're looking for a security. When that officer pulls you over alongside the road and they're looking for a security, and you can give a license in lieu of that security, is that not saying that it is like kind? In that other words, that license itself is a security instrument. So what do you think of a scent of mine? What state are you in?
I'm in Florida.
Let's take a look. Florida. License in lieu of bail.
Yep, I'm figuring out what I'm going to do tomorrow. I got to send them some kind of documents.
Let's see. It says online sunshine. Let's see here. Find. Okay, let me blow this up so we can see it. And let's see what she says. See if I can find in lieu. A person who does not hold a commercial driver's license and who is cited for an offense of knowingly driving while his or her license is suspended, revoked, or canceled, or while under suspension or revocation equivalent status for any of the underlying violations in paragraph 10A, may, in lieu of payment of fine or court appearance, elect to enter a plea of nolo contender and provide proof of compliance to the clerk of court, designated official, or authorized operator of Traffic Violations Bureau. In such a case, adjudication shall be withheld. However, no election shall be made under this section if such person has made an election under this subsection during the preceding 12 months. So it doesn't say anything about in lieu of bail. But let's look at 10 and see what they're saying. Notwithstanding any provision of this section, if a person does not have a prior forcible felony conviction as defined, the penalties provided in paragraph B apply if a person's driver's license driving privilege is canceled, suspended, or revoked, or the person is under suspension or revocation equivalent status for failing to pay child support, failing to pay other financial obligation, failing to comply with a civil penalty, failure to maintain vehicular financial responsibility, failing to comply with attendance or other requirements for minors, having been designated a habitual traffic offender. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about the license in lieu of for Florida.
Yeah, right.
But under the constitutions, equal protection refers to the idea that a governmental body may not deny people equal protection of its governing laws. The governing body state must treat an individual in the same manner as others in similar conditions and circumstances. The Fifth Amendment's due process clause requires the United States government to practice equal protection. The 14th Amendment's equal protection clause requires states to practice equal protection. Okay? So if the state of Alabama has a driver's license in lieu of bail, you can use the state of Alabama's code and assert it equally as a protective measure in Florida. And you can use the United States government to enforce that equality under both the Fifth Amendment for the state and the 14th Amendment to the federal. It's telling you the Fifth Amendment and the 14th Amendment are coinciding under the Constitution, which is the contractual binding of the 10th Amendment of the powers so delegated to the United States for the states. So let's get back to the video here.
And said in lieu of any other security, Louisiana also mentions it as a security. Deposit of license in lieu of security upon arrest. Receipt, license you have, or licensee to have license or receipt in immediate possession. Remember what I spoke about yesterday? We talked about customs duties 19, CFR 113.40, and where they talk about satisfaction of lien. Satisfaction of lien is released by giving them by remitting a receipt to them. A receipt is a handwritten statement saying that you release them of their lien.
That's all it takes, folks. That's all it really takes. Again, you got to remember that everything here operates on negotiable instruments, and you can use a piece of paper and instrumentalize it with your words. You do not have to keep using their grammar. You can use your words to correct the issues in their grammar to show how it does not apply to yourself. You are not similarly situated as a 14th Amendment citizen, as that is an individual, and the individual's name and number identify a record. They are holding the record, and you are not situated in it. You are outside of that record.
It's an affidavit superior to any of their certificates, as I've been talking about lately. Their certificates, they cannot authenticate because nobody will sit down and give a handwritten.
And again, brother, just interrupt me and say pause anytime you want, brother.
I was just going to say I rebut and rebuke the doctrine of idiom sodom. Similar is not same.
Correct. And that's an important point as it relates to what we were talking about yesterday with the 1031 exchanges under the finance. When they're financing things, what they're doing is they're using such things as 1031 exchanges without telling you. And those 1031 exchanges under Section H, it clearly tells us that property outside of the United States is not of like kind. And that's what they're doing, is they're saying that the state's property is not the United States because it's different kind. So therefore, they get to use it for productive use or investment. However, that's the presumption because you're saying that you're a citizen at the municipal level, which is supposedly not of like kind as a United States citizen, but that's not so. That's the only reason, and they correlate together because that's when the United States citizenship and the state residency is established, and that's that dual citizenship. You cannot claim to be, like I said this morning, a federal, state, or municipal officer or agent without first being a United States citizen of some sort. You can't come into the country as a foreigner and then all of a sudden start running for political offices. You can't do that. You have to be a resident of the state for a certain amount of time before that constitutional authority can kick in as a citizen of the United States. This is why you have to be here for 7 years before you get to be a citizen. under an immigration document.
Statement with a separate handwritten wedding signature. They won't do it. That's why you have to give them a receipt. That's part of the problem. We're not giving them a receipt, and they're not taking receipts, and they don't know. Again, unless we know this and start acting on this and start giving them receipts and handing over that license in lieu of bail, they won't comprehend this. We have to teach them this. Notification to vehicle owner. Remember, in the motor vehicle operator's lease, it says that part of that agreement is that you are not the owner. So you have to give notification to the vehicle owner. In that notification also of surrendering that license in lieu of bail, you give them notification that certification is false. Like I talked, the motor vehicle operator's lease certification is false because it does not exist, because I made no such certification. I wrote no such affidavit.
And that goes to 26 USC 7701 under subsection H is the motor vehicle operator's lease agreement. And in that agreement, you have to make a handwritten qualified statement of your intent. And that intent has to correlate to at least 50% of the use of the vehicle for your trade or business. Excuse me. While therein, that same code, the term trade or business is defined as performing the functions of public office. And therefore, under that licensing agreement, you're supposed to be getting paid a paycheck for your performance in that function of public office. If you're not, then they don't have any record that any kind of contract was valid or even kicked in. There are no time logs, there's no mileage logs, there's no points of destination from point of origin with product or inventory or customer list or base or anything. So what is their evidence that you do qualify under an oath of office? They don't have that either.
And then they're going to say, then they say surrender of license, issuance of temporary permits. They're going to, when you surrender that license, they're going to still want to issue you a temporary permit or a suspended license term where you're required to have SR 22 or something. No. You already gave the license in lieu of all bails. If they try to issue a temporary permit, that's another bond. That's another bail. It's another bailment. They're trying to sign you right back up. That's why you have to give.
That's why when I walked out of jail last time, I didn't sign anything. I didn't sign anything the whole time because I finally understood that that's what was happening. As soon as you get done with one thing, they ask you to sign another document that signs you right back up into that system. It's like my companion. She gets all these insurance offers, and I keep having to try to explain to her, if you are already the beneficiary or supposed to receive the benefit, then why do you suppose an insurance agent would come and ask you to buy insurance and then sit at the table for you and tell? And I've done this to a couple insurance agents that come to the door. They wanted to set up appointments. She went ahead and set up an appointment. They came and sat down, and I just put them through the ringer. I said, listen, you already told her she's qualified for this benefit. Then you turned around and told her it's going to cost her this much. How is that a benefit? Oops. So then we call the Social Security and find out, yes, she does qualify for that benefit. So we want that benefit too. No cost. Because she's already qualified. Like I said, folks, when you're born and they put down in that documentation that you're a Medicare qualified government employee, if they want to play on that presumption and say that you're qualified, then they damn well better be able to prove it, because once they say you're qualified and then say, well, no, it's no, you already said you're qualified. Show it. Prove it. Yeah. Otherwise, you do it in dishonor and bad faith. Go ahead, brother. Yeah,
the only benefits they want to give us is jail, fees, and fines.
Yeah, that's a benefit for them. Yeah. Absolutely right. That's their benefit.
I want all my benefits. If they're going to say I got benefits.
Yeah, I want all benefits under God.
Yeah.
Give them a receipt releasing them of the lien. The lien starts with that automobile lien when they import it to the United States. It's a Customs and Border Protection lien on the property, the vessel. It cannot be on the man.
Again, the states operate in rem, which is the thing. So they're operating on the vessel, which is the documentation, which relates to that automobile. So then they turn around and come get the automobile. No, you have the documentation in your possession already. That is the person. The person's property is something different, and the one that actually possesses and uses it is yet even different than that.
Illinois.
The darn full-time job trying to deal with these people. That's all I know.
It is.
Let's try
agree.
this again. Okay. There it is. C is what we're looking at, and we're looking at Supreme Court Rule 553, posting bail.
Posting bail. Okay? Understand, these terms are specific, folks. And it says posting bail for a reason. It is merely an accounting. It is not money. It is not a credit card. It is posting bail. It is posting the data elements of the events of which you are accounting for.
Okay, you get that, people? This is an Illinois Supreme Court Rule 553. And we'll take a chance to look that up.
And again, that's the Supreme Court rule of Illinois, and that's what it carries through for use in other states, that equal protection of the law. You get to use that same Supreme Court case in Florida, brother.
Awesome.
For the federal code. But right now, we're going to go back to Illinois. We're going to read this. By whom and where taken? The several circuit clerks, deputy circuit clerks, and law enforcement officers designated by name or office by the chief judge of the circuit are authorized to let to bail any person arrested for.
Let to bail. Let means lease. Okay? Again, why I did not sign the release paperwork when they let me out of jail. Because that was a re-letting to bail. In other words, an expectation that I would provide the bail. I would provide the accounting. I would post the events. I'm not of that capacity. It ain't none of your business.
Or charged with an offense covered by rules 526, 527, and 528. And these are the traffic laws in Illinois. Upon designation by the chief judge of the circuit, bail may be taken in accordance with this article. It's fancifully written, artistically written, in any county, municipal, or other building housing governmental units.
Housing other governmental units. That is a postal unit from a contract postal office. You get it? Remember the contract postal unit? That's your resident. That's a contract postal unit. It's any building, right? That's Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. Needful places and buildings. So this carries out throughout the entire country, brother. This is what you quote for Florida from Illinois. This very specific wording that says municipal or other building housing a governmental unit. Florida, that place that you're dealing with is a building of a governmental unit. And the law is uniform throughout all jurisdictions in those contracts. And this contract clause created right here is valid in Florida just as well.
Police station, sheriff's office, or jail, district headquarters building of the Illinois State Police, weigh station, or portable scale unit established for enforcement of truck violations under Rule 526B1 or similar municipal ordinances. Bail deposit by credit card, debit card, or by any other electronic means may only be accepted upon the approval of the chief judge. He wants a financial instrument so he can approve it.
And that's to obtain money, property, labor, or services on credit. Yet you go down there to pay fines, and guess what? They don't accept. They don't accept credit cards.
Right. That's why I'm going to tender their instrument back to them and negotiate it back to them and send it to them through registered mail tomorrow.
Awesome. Make sure to let me know how that turns out.
I'm going to see what happens, because that's the only thing I can come up with at this point. Like, besides open my own claim back against them and then do all the fighting that I would need to do, which I don't feel like doing.
Yeah,
I'm just going to accept it and tender it back.
Yeah, see, that's
for
what
full
they're
accord and satisfaction.
Yeah, see, that's what their codes actually try to get you to do, is present that counterclaim. But again, remember, you're not valid. You don't have a board of directors, so you can hire an attorney to represent you in the court. The best you can do is hire a lawyer, which is a private attorney. It's a lawyer, to file documentation. That's the best we can do.
Yeah,
But again, to file that documentation, why would you file it into a court record when all you really have to do is use that equity venue, which is private communications, for remedy? That's it. That's all we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Them trying to force us to do this law or legal process is a violation and can cost them 20 years.
He wants to prove that you have the finances and that the person is not innocent. In other words, he wants to make sure that there are funds available by the person. And the circuit clerk's ability to accept such deposits. Individual bonds under paragraph D of this rule may additionally be taken as designated by the chief judge of the circuit.
And again, notice the chief clerk's ability to accept such deposits. Deposits being depositions. They're dispositioning something. They're taking it from one place and putting it somewhere else.
Individual bonds under paragraph D of this rule may additionally be taken as designated by the chief judge of the circuit.
And again, that individual bond, you can handwrite your own promise. You can handwrite your own bond. You can handwrite your own letter of credit. You can handwrite your own peace treaty. That's all it is. Come into peace with the terms as they are and as they're used, as being inconsistent, in fact, with the intent of the law.
Copy of bond receipt for cash bail. Remember I told you, you've got to give them a receipt? You got to get a bond receipt. Get a bond receipt. Or make up a bond receipt showing that you've received their bond and you're giving them a cash receipt. What's that cash receipt? That's that affidavit, people.
Again, that cash, like I said, is just paperwork. You can cash in paperwork because it has value. So what you're doing when you write out an affidavit is you're presenting a cash item. The receipt is a cash item. Anything along the commercial path is a cash item because it's a paperwork instrument. Even in the electronic form, it would be a cash item to draw out the commercial value of the electronic communication. It would be printed up on paper, and that makes it itself a cash item by intent.
That's the affidavit. A carbon copy of the bond or an official receipt showing the amount of cash bail posted. The amount, remember we talked about the amount? Their amount is always a par system. You're going to put a whole value, 1.00. And I know a lot of...
And this is where I said with this recent activity on the failure to appear for jury duty that I got dismissed not long ago, I could have taken that $350 bond for its par value, which is 1/10, and made it 10 times as much or even 100 times as much and said, okay, now let's gamble. You want to play with a big dog? Let's play with big dog money. You think that $350 really has much value? I think I'm much more valuable than that. So go ahead and arrest me on $350,000 bond and see what happens now. Because on that $350 bond, I'm going to assure you that everyone will recognize I am the principal, I am the big dog, and you will do as I say.
People think I'm crazy about that, but that's all it takes. You are looking to be made whole. There's no dollar amount on it. It is no dollar sign attached to it. It's just 1.00 or 1.00, 1 point whole. Two wholes coming together with a meeting of the minds to create a oneness. Specifying the time and place of court appearance shall be furnished to the accused and shall constitute a receipt for bail. A carbon copy of the bond or official receipt showing the amount of cash bail posted. The traffic citation is what they're talking about here. And it says specifying the time and place of the court.
So the financing is done. The financing is done. Like we said in this morning's video. That was the financial event. Once the finance is done, it's done.
Court appearance shall be furnished to the accused and shall constitute a receipt for bail. Receipt for bail. You have to give them a receipt in return, saying that you gave them an instrument for that bail. You gave them an instrument for the bail. They copied down information and used it as a receipt for bail. But it's not in affidavit form. Okay. The bond, cash bail, or both shall be delivered to the office of the circuit clerk of the county in which the violation occurred within 48 hours of receipt or within the time set for the accused appearance in court, whichever is earlier. So we see those people that are talking about acceptance within 72 hours. This is what we're talking about. When we accept something within 72 hours by turning around and sending them an affidavit in mail in private, rebutting the facts that the officer wrote down as a purchase of bail or receipt of bail, we're going to give them receipt in handwritten form, separately signed, as receipt of the information and release them of their obligation.
That's as simple as it gets, guys. They placed the obligation, and it was an accident due to continuous and repeated exposure to the same events that caused a public liability that the insured never intended or expected. But once you realize it, now you know it, now you give them notice that that was an accident. You're not in the capacity to place a liability on the public record.
That's what the release is. The receipt is the written statement releasing them of their obligation. Pure and simple. That's all it is. Settle the accounts, and I release all your obligations. Simple. Then it goes on to say C, driver's license or bond certificate. So,
greetings, sister. How you doing tonight?
that little word right there says or.
All
So we
is
can
well,
hand
brother.
over the
All
driver's
is
license.
well.
Good to hear. Good to hear.
Yeah, the Spirit's been moving me today, just like the Spirit's been moving you in the past weeks.
All glory goes to him. All glory goes to him.
Yeah, all glory goes to the Most High. Hallelujah.
I'm going to address this question from Heather Mooney real quick.
Sure.
What if I was in jail? How could you submit an affidavit 72 hours? The affidavit is easy. In order for the court to obtain personal jurisdiction, I was not properly served in the state in which the court sits, nor did I volunteer to appear as defendant based upon a summons with no waiver of personal jurisdiction. See, the court can only obtain personal jurisdiction if the defendant is, or if the plaintiff properly serves the defendant in the state in which the court sits, and the defendant must voluntarily appear in court. So if you are there under an arrest, that's not voluntary, and they didn't give you a summons. And if they did give you a summons, I guarantee you they most likely did not give you a waiver of personal jurisdiction in order to do so. See, they need that waiver of jurisdiction so they can waiver of personal jurisdiction so they can hire an attorney on your behalf because they know you're not a corporate entity. You do not have a corporate charter, and that must be had for them to have jurisdiction. So when they give you a waiver of personal jurisdiction even, you can disclaim the ability to hand over personal jurisdiction because you are, again, not in the capacity of an incorporated organization that has a board of directors that can hire an attorney to represent you in that court. It basically is an impossibility. Thank you for the question.
License, or when he asks for a driver's license, we can give him birth certificate bond with the affidavit, and that's his receipt for bail in lieu of the driver's license. If he has any questions about that and wants to arrest you alongside the road and doesn't want to accept that birth certificate with the affidavit in lieu of bail, as the law states, then I'll be darned if he wants to take you to that court. He better have his own bond certificate ready to give in exchange. Otherwise, you can take everything that man owns with this bond.
House, wife, children, children's children, children's children. I will come after every generation after you if you don't leave me alone.
I feel the same. They've caused me so much loss, harm, and damage, emotional, spiritual, physical distress in the last 20 years. I'm sick of it.
Yeah, but the thing of it all, just like they costed me some things, I was able to grow within myself, and now I know the truth completely.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
all fine and dandy, but we all got to live in this world. And when they take your ability to live away, it's really hard. Like, what am I going to go live in the woods?
Well,
You know,
the world is changing. Believe it or not, the world
I
is
hope
changing.
so.
We are in a new age.
I've been working
Absolutely.
7 days a week for 30 years. It's getting old.
Well, the world is changing, brother. New beginnings are going to happen soon and very soon. I promise you.
I'm hoping.
Absolutely.
'Cause
And
they
just a
need
quick
to be held
reminder,
to account by somebody.
and just a quick reminder, everybody, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There is a PayPal link in the details section for anybody who wants to share some love. And I just dropped the StreamYard link for anybody else that might want to come join the panel.
Certificate saying so. If an accused deposits a driver's license with the arresting officer, when he
Deposits. That's because you gave it to him. That's a deposit. That's a deposition. It's supposed to be in your possession. Okay? But you gave it to him. Now he is a holder. And in due course, he has the right to enforce that instrument. Now he takes the information. He gives it back. Now you're the holder again. Now you have the right to enforce that instrument. That's the way the game is played.
pulls you over alongside the road, he's already making an accusation. He turns around and asks you for that driver's license. Have you not already deposited that license with the arresting officer? He has arrested you. He has stopped you. That is an arrest. And if you've deposited, given him that license in lieu of bail, if an accused deposits a driver's license with the arresting officer in lieu of bail or in addition to bail, or deposits a bond certificate, the arresting officer shall note that fact on the accused copy of the ticket and transmit the driver's license or bond to the clerk within the time provided in paragraph B of this rule.
So again, this is your ability to negotiate of an offer and acceptance. Now, if you give him that license with that offer and he takes it, that is an acceptance in good faith. And if he violates that, he is proving himself to act in bad faith. This is how the contracts work. You just have to learn how to work them like that. These people don't want to let you work them like that, but that is the letter of the law. That is what they go by. Learn those contract clauses and how they work. And again, I'll remind you under Federal Code of Regulations 48 CFR 52.212-5 that contract terms and conditions are required to implement statutes or executive orders - commercial items, commercial services. This is what tells us that the statutes are the Uniform Commercial Code at the state level, and the executive orders of the U.S. Code are the Commercial Code at the federal level, which correlate to the Incoterms contract conditions at the international level.
Driver's license or bond certificate if an accused deposits a driver's license with the arresting officer in lieu of bail or in addition to bail, or deposit a bond certificate, the arresting officer shall note that fact on the accused copy of the ticket. In other words, there is no place for it on the ticket. He must handwrite it. And transmit the driver's license or bond certificate to the clerk within the time period provided in paragraph B of this rule, and that says 48 hours.
And notice it says here arresting officer. And like I said, in relation to the previous question that Heather had, they're supposed to properly serve you in the state in which the court sits. Now that officer can't do that, okay? He can't serve you. So that is improper service alongside the road. And then again, if he's arresting you, that is not a voluntary appearance by the defendant. So he violates both structures of proper service in order for the court to obtain that personal jurisdiction.
Yeah, he can't be a witness and a process server at the same time.
Correct.
Following is a current list of Illinois companies and associations authorized to issue bond certificates to be accepted as bail in minor traffic offenses where the bail does not exceed the amount specified. Remember I told you about these insurance companies and surety bonds? You do not need insurance. If you go to one of these guys and get a surety bond, that is the bond they're talking about here. But in getting a surety bond with any one of these companies, you can present a birth certificate in lieu of the cash.
See that what they're talking about here, like I said earlier, that license is a security instrument. So like kind, you can offer up another type of security instrument through a bail bondsman, or you can offer up another like kind security instrument through the Secretary of State known as a birth certificate. All you have to do is know how to put the value into it and qualify that value for the proper processing and address it to the proper clerks. That's all we're talking about. These are all contract terms and conditions that they have to follow, and you can implement them through those contract terms and conditions by knowing who you are and where you are in accordance with that contract. You're not in the contract. You're a party of the contract due to the benefit of the trust that it operates in.
It's uniform. So even in the insurance industry, we can turn around and use the concept of using a bond in lieu of cash, in lieu
of insurance, in lieu of a fidelity agreement. It's already there. See, that birth certificate, the enumeration at birth, like I said, is the conference of a nationality of a United States citizenship. That is a treaty. That is a peace agreement. That is contractual binding of domestic tranquility, general welfare, national defense to form a more perfect union. It's already there, folks.
Of bail.
All you have to do is know what the instrument is and how to enforce it when you have it.
Using a bond in lieu of a bond. Like kind, a promise for a promise. You got to learn how to use this system against them, folks. This is Georgia State, and this is the only place it mentions it, but it does say relating to display of motor vehicle driver's license in lieu of bail. A bail, this is the amendment, and it says a bill to amend Code Section 17611 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to display of motor vehicle driver's license in lieu of bail.
Display. See, now it's display and not deposit. So you don't even have to give it to them. And this is the premise of the money wires at Walmart. When I go to Walmart to get a wire transfer and they ask me for that ID and they want to hold that ID, no, all I have to do is display the ID. I keep it. I hold it. That means I get to enforce that instrument, right? So I'm the holder in due course with right of enforcement. And I have to know how to enforce that. So when that Walmart employee says, no, I have to have it, I say, no, I have to display it. Because if I give it to you, you're taking on all liabilities. If you can't agree and accept to take on my liabilities, then you have no right holding my card. And then they turn around and give you a nice printout on the machine that says, I agree, I have received the money transferred, when they won't transfer it to you until you sign. All you have to do is understand these processes and help them correct them. Because when a dumb Walmart employee grabs my ID right out of my hand, I say, wait a minute, no, that's mine. They said, well, I need it. I said, no, I only held it up to display it. You grabbed it out of my hands. That ain't kosher. You just took it from me. You can see, you've got eyes. I can hold it in front of you, but you do not touch mine.
And you are so correct, Brother Keith, because they do it in all sense. Because I just recently went to a business and I was inquiring about some stuff, and they said, oh, no, we can't give you any paperwork or even a lease to read until you come in, do the application and sign. And I goes, wait a minute, how is one supposed to, get the information to understand what the lease is saying? Well, we can't do it until you do that process. Well,
yeah, that's failure of processing the offer correctly. You can't make an offer that you're going to get a lease and then not tell them the conditions of the lease until they fill out an application for that offer. No. You have to be open with your offer. You have to have full disclosure with your offer. That is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Yeah, that is crazy.
Recognizance, meaning recognition or incarceration in certain cases, so as to change provisions specifying the cases in which such substitution is permissible. To amend Section 33-34-3 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to requirements for issuance of motor vehicle liability insurance.
Motor vehicle liability insurance policies. Again, insurance, if it was law, it wouldn't be called a policy, right? It would just be required as insurance. But every last time you will find out it is an insurance policy.
So as to provide for certain policy issuance. So you have to have the insurance before they can provide policy issuance.
See, in other words, when they get that information from you for that insurance, what they're doing is they're gathering policy information that is already protected. Again, that's international protected person, the United States citizen, as a resident in one of the states. And all of that information is pertaining to that. And those are protected persons under American interests. So why would you need insurance?
Before you can be provided the policy, you have to purchase it. Makes sense, don't it? So if you don't purchase the insurance policy, does it apply? No. If you offer a bond under the full faith and credit of the United States, is there a limit on the liability paid out? Do they limit it to a $50,000 per person hospital pay? Can't.
Not if it's full faith and credit. I hope you're catching on.
The state is subject to the same full faith and credit as the United States. Bond for bond. Here, I'll give you the license as the bail. It's a bond. It's telling you, they're telling you that that license is a bond.
And it's already been paid for. It was already financed. Didn't you pay to have that license?
Look up Rule 553. This section applies according to the provisions thereof, except to the extent that there is involved a military or foreign affairs function of the United States. Remember, we have a commander-in-chief. He is called a president, and everybody believes that he's president of a country when he's actually a president of a corporation, and that he is known as commander-in-chief of the military of that corporation, the enforcement of that corporation. The military branch of that corporation has a Duns and Bradstreet number, a matter relating to agency management.
Or personnel, which is 5 U.S.C. 551A, individual records maintained on individuals, employees as personnel, and that's a federal code saying that you are implied to be a federal, state, or municipal officer or agent whose resident presence is deemed necessary when that never occurred. It is an impossibility. Or to public property, grants, benefits, or contracts, not private. Not private property, private grants, private benefits, or private contracts. It must be public to be of the same kind.
All of the rulemaking.
Go ahead.
So when they talk about individual, or the dual part is the duality part where it's, they want you to participate in the private and in the public.
That's how they get their investments, is the private side. So as long as you operate in your private capacity without knowing that you're similarly performing the functions of public office, they can take advantage of that similar performance. And again,
right.
and again, so many have been indoctrinated in this that many of them don't even understand that themselves, as they sit there and say, I'm just doing my job.
Well, it makes a lot of sense, like in the words, when you break up recognizances, when you say it, but when you break it up into syllables, it makes more sense. And then if you say it, because, the English language for the people in Britain and the English language for the people here in the North, in America, it has a twang, it has a twist to it. They call it you have a accent. So basically, It depends on how you enunciate the word, to really understand the meaning behind it, because it's brilliant. It's brilliant what they've done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I say it's important to learn this stuff so you can figure it out. The American English language is very twisted. And like I said, it is actually very, very beautiful thing once you figure it out, because now you can untwist all of that which is twisted, that's indoctrinated us. And I use us very sternly and steadfastly. Everybody.
Yep, they
Anywhere,
did tell
whether
us it was spelling. Even when we were kids, it was spelling.
Yeah.
Exactly, because in the spelling, they were teaching us grimoires, like in grammar, and so we are learning how to cast spells on ourselves and others. So basically, it's just like it says in Harry Potter. They teach us with school what they call shul. It is what it is.
They even taught us how to do cursive.
Yeah, exactly. And that's that spell of illness we're born into at the hospital. You can't write it better than they did. You really can't. I mean, it reads like a Dr. Seuss book when you get into it.
And you know, the personable part of it is when you're watching the movie The Mask, when Jim Carrey takes on the new character, when he puts on the mask, he's totally a different man than when he is not wearing the mask. So when we go into their venues to re-venue things, we also take on a mask, a persona, and we have personalities, right?
Yes, and that's the only way we can interact with each other. It plays out on this forum right now, known as the metaverse. We can only act in personam. It's not a physical presence. It's an intangible presence. Even though we see each other and hear each other in this forum, it is in personam. It's the only way we can communicate with each other, even in real life. We have to act in personam. In our natural character, we don't have a language, just like most other animals. We have verbal and vocal sounds, but we have this dominion and this intellect that allows us to construct something that we can make familiar between two people. Once we make it familiar between two people, it can then gain a third, fourth, fifth. I can't imagine when I have a large group of people that know my text script, and we can regularly intercourse with each other in my language, which is a basic, which the basis is the English alphabet, but I just use different symbols. It's just learning a different format. That's all it is. So in this fictional or in this legal format, it's a fictional format of our natural capabilities being expressed in a higher vocal ability. That's all it is. It really has no bond on us. The thing says, I'm bound by my word. A man is bound by his words, because it's so inherent that we're supposed to be natural creatures, that when we start speaking something extracurricular, something supplemental to our nature, it is in fact like that in personam. It's an actual binding that we're not aware of.
That's so correct, brother. And that's why in The Sound of Music, when they had the fa sol la ti do, and they changed it one way in the musical, and then it was reverse. So that's all they do is reverse everything in revocation to how we
Yep.
speak.
Yep, absolutely.
The United States or any state of the Union is in regards to a matter relating to agency management.
That's the subject matter. Agency, man, age, meant. The mentality of the age of your being a man, the age of majority, but you're being treated as a minority. Comprehend this.
Pure and simple. That's all it pertains to. Or personal or to public property. Not of public property, but to public property. Loans, grants, benefits, or contracts. What state are you in? Tell me a state, we'll look it up.
Okay. So we already looked up Florida. They don't have it in Florida, but like I said, we reviewed a case in a Supreme Court of Illinois case that anybody can use in any state if you don't find it. What state are you in, Iman?
The state of Georgia.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we pulled that one up on this one. Let's pull it up again here. Okay, we see that. Georgia. Compose rules and regulations. 375 3-3.13. Current through rules and regulations filed February 1st, 2024. If the driver has displayed the driver's license in lieu of bail and has failed to appear in answer to the charge against him or her, The court in which the charges are lodged shall immediately complete the DDS 912 and mail to the Department of Driver Services the copy entitled Home Jurisdiction Copy. That's that home rule. Remember we talked about District of Columbia and the long arm statutes? That's what the long arm statutes are imposing, is the home rule of at arm's length contractings. Okay? When such individual shall respond and pay any fines and penalties imposed, that's the deposit that was impositioned, the deposition that was impositioned, that's Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, Congress shall lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises. The court shall mail to the individual the copy of the DDS 912 entitled Defendant's Receipt. Okay? Display of driver's license as provided in OCGA 17.611 shall mean that upon request of the apprehending officer, the person shall remove the license from any wallet, case, or other container in which it is kept and hand it to the apprehending officer, who may retain the license until the citations or warning have been issued. Once the citation or warnings have been issued, the apprehending officer shall return the license to the person unless otherwise provided by law.
And what would occur if they don't have a license to present to that commanding officer?
Then the commanding officer really doesn't have anything to request for an exchange for his commercial offer in bad faith. Again, if you are not performing commercially and somebody offers you something, all you have to do is say, no, I'm not in the performance of commerce at this time. I'm in my private capacity. If they don't understand that, that means there's a lot more that they don't understand than that simple comment, in that they think they can enforce public contracts, grants, loans, and such according to public property, according to agency management of a military unit. Issued for the purposes of Georgia Admin Comp Channel, Chapter 375 3-3-3-.13, parenthesis 3, means with respect to a uniform traffic citation that the apprehending officer has completed the applicable fields on the uniform traffic citation, known as a DDS 32, and the license has signed, or the licensee has signed the uniform traffic citation, acknowledging service of the summons and receipt of copy of the same. So the citation is the summons, and he is acting as a servicer, which we've already discussed he cannot do. If he is acting as the officer, as a witness, he cannot at the same time be the service. You see the inconsistency and the impossibility? He is acting as a military officer, serving another military officer, when that is not so. If he is acting as a witness in his private capacity for that private policing agency, again under a military administrative unit, he is now acting as a witness and not a service of process. So he's either one or the other. He can't play both at the same time, private and public. Okay? State that has not entered into a reciprocal agreement. Remember, we were talking about reciprocity here not too long ago. Everything in the Uniform Commercial Code under that equal protection of the law is reciprocal among the states, interstate and intrastate. Agreement, as used in OCGA, means Alaska, California, Michigan, Montana, Oregon, and Wisconsin. original rule entitled driver's license as bail in traffic violation arrests. Interesting, huh?
Very interesting. Really interesting. That every day, just like you and I do, brother. And like I said, nothing is a coincidence. That's why I petition the Most High every day. It's all in divine order.
Absolutely, sister. Absolutely. And that's why we go over this stuff so you can see the distinctions that are being made in the language that you may or may not have recognized before. You know, so when we're talking about the service, like I said, the court cannot have personal jurisdiction unless the plaintiff serves the defendant in the state. The officer is not the plaintiff. He's going to bring a case on behalf of the plaintiff. The plaintiff will always be the municipality, the county, or the state, or even the federal government at times. But the officer is not the serving officer. He can only be a witness. He's bringing things on behalf, using a municipal code or a county code as it relates to a state statute. And again, those state statutes are contract terms and conditions. They're telling you the terms and conditions of the contracts. And what it tells you there is the officer is supposed to be serving. Well, the only officer I know of that can provide service is the sheriff. And that's only after it's already been adjudicated through the courts. And again, it clearly states for the courts to obtain that jurisdiction, the plaintiff must serve the defendant in the state in which the court sits, and the defendant needs to voluntarily appear in court. With that, in the summons, they give you a summons. They're also supposed to provide a waiver of personal jurisdiction so that you can waive jurisdiction in an incorporated capacity to the courts so that you can have an attorney represent you in that court. If you're not structured as an incorporated entity, chartered with a main document stating the trustees and your board of directors, then you're not qualified to even appear in those courts, let alone have somebody appear on your behalf. So with that, anybody else got a state that they want me to look up real quick? Let me know in the chat. And in the meantime, I see we got some people here that joined us again. Rocky Shepard, Autumn Coleman. We've got, let's see here, DeAce here, Mark Jones. A Scent of Mine is up on board with us. We got Nubs, Fuzzy, Big Stank, Damsel Medic, Rod Kitley. Who else here? Heather, Lex Animata, excuse me. Christ Moon, I hope I said that right. Metaversal Miscreant, Henry Guardo, Goldsmith. Welcome everybody. I appreciate your support. One last time, make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button. We got Utah, South Carolina, and Minnesota. So let's look it up. Okay, for South Carolina, it says South Carolina Code of Laws, Title 17, Criminal Procedure, right? Remember, traffic offenses are non-arrestable offenses according to the Department of Transportation, yet your statutes and your codes and your policies and stuff in the state statutes will place it as a criminal offense. Bail and recognizances. Requirement that surety company file undertaking. Didn't expect that one, did we? Undertaking, that's the one where you're undertaking the decedent. You're becoming the mortician. You are the coroner. With respect to guaranteed arrest bond certificates issued by automobile clubs, acceptance, forfeiture, and enforcement of certificates. Okay?
So
And
Keith,
notice,
is that like going to the city of Necropolis and you're becoming necrotic?
I love you, sister. I love you. So, and notice it says surety company. So we're getting that language we were talking about. You don't need insurance. You can get a surety bond. So requirement that surety company file undertaking with respect to guaranteed arrest bond certificates issued by automobile clubs. Acceptance, forfeiture, and enforcement of certificates. A domestic or foreign surety company qualified to transact business in this state may become a surety by filing with the Department of Insurance an undertaking to become surety of not more than $1,500 with respect to each guaranteed arrest bond certificate issued by an automobile club or association. The undertaking must be in a form to be prescribed by the department and must state the name and address of the automobile club or automobile association with respect to which the surety company undertakes to guarantee the arrest bond certificates. Unqualified obligation of the surety company to pay the fine or forfeiture of not more than $1,500 of a person who, after posting a guaranteed arrest bond certificate, which the surety has undertaken to guarantee, fails to make the appearance for which the guaranteed arrest bond certificate was posted. So the surety company is the one that's supposed to pay. You pay the insurance, and then they arrest you alongside the road. Why is the insurance company that undertook the guaranteed bond arrest bond certificate not taking care of it? Did you make an insurance claim on it? Because if you understand the term accident, let's look that up again. (49 CFR 378.5) Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations under Title 49 Transportation. And it says, accident includes continuous or repeated exposure to the same conditions resulting in public liability, which the insured neither expected nor intended. So when you get arrested and then they place a public liability, did you expect or intend that as the one insured? If not, then you should be making a claim on that accident. Does that make sense? Greetings, Chris. How you doing tonight? Hello?
Were you speaking to I, brother?
Well, no, I was speaking to Chris. I said, welcome, Chris. How you doing tonight? Well, we can hear him moving around, but he's not speaking, evidently. We're going to put you on mute, brother. We see you there. We recognize you. We appreciate you coming up. So, accident literally means continuous and repeated exposure to the same conditions that you were not aware of, but at some point in time in your life, you should become aware of them, particularly when you have people like myself that are telling you about them and explaining them to you. Again, I can explain it to you, but I cannot comprehend it for you. So let's take a look at the next one. You said, see, we had Utah. Let's look at Utah. That wasn't a very good example for South Carolina, but it's telling you again in that language what's happening. And again, I reiterate that when we look at this these things that it doesn't have anything for Utah in regards to in lieu of, but it can be, it's equality of the law among the states, folks. Like I said, we can use these other situations as equal in contract form for the other states. So let's take a look at what was the other one, Minnesota. If I remember correctly, Minnesota does have it. Maybe not, maybe not. And again, like I said, you know, this the statutes are comprehensive, uniform commercial codes, and once one state makes something, the rest of the states, if they think it's paramount to their benefit, they will implement it in other states. But if they don't, and you find something like this that is not uniform throughout all jurisdictions, then you can still use it under that equality of the law. So, how you doing, Chris? So that's what we're talking about, folks. Let me see. Minnesota doesn't seem to have it either. So if you don't find it in your state, like I said, all you got to do is learn the terms and conditions and learn how to write your own negotiations according to the terms and conditions. And you don't even have to use per se the actual citation of the Illinois Supreme Court. You can just use the wording to draw up your own instrument without even mentioning that court case. And if you're good enough, it will come across loud and clear. So again, I urge everybody, it's a matter of learning the terms and conditions that they use to implement the statutes and the executive orders in the federal codes. If they don't have the proper terms and conditions that apply to yourself as a part of an agency or an office, then it doesn't apply to you. You may still be part of that benefit, like I said, but it doesn't apply to you in the contract forum. So I'm gonna kick your other one. All right, Chris?
Yeah, kick my other one. You hear me now?
All right, gotcha.
Are you able to hear me now?
There we go.
Yep.
You are loud and clear, 5x5. How you doing tonight, brother?
Oh, hey, I'm doing pretty good. Is my device giving me a hard time as usual?
Well, we overcome that.
Every time. I'm listening real close because of course, you know, I got that little situation going on with my own thing here in Florida, and I'm trying to figure out how to hand these people their butt. So listening and real close to what you're talking about here, and if you need to ask me anything or whatever, I'm just here listening in.
Yeah, and again, it's just a matter of learning the words that are going to manifest what you want out of the situation. So when you learn the terms and conditions as they are, and again, so many of them are synonymous. When we understand bail is a bond, it also means bind, band, bund, bend. They're all synonymous. So it's a matter of simplifying everything that they're using against us. When they use these finance terms throughout the various different jurisdictions, that might mean something different, or using a different word that means the same thing in another jurisdiction. That's the thing about the 5 puzzles. They all 100-piece puzzle. They're all made by the same puzzle company. They all have the exact same die cut, but the picture is different. So if you take all 5 puzzles and mix them together and try to put those puzzles together, you may or may not come up with a picture on any of them, even if you get all 100 pieces to fit together in 5 different puzzles. Now it's a matter of putting the right pieces with the right puzzle to get the right picture. It truly is a very convoluted and obfuscated system, and this is why I say the English language itself is very beautiful, because once you figure it out, you can put those puzzles together for what they are and see the pictures for what they are. And when it comes to Rocky Shepherd puts down comprehend, as in understand. Understand means that you stand under something, just like it says. It's 2 words, stand under. Comprehend means it's 3 things there. Hend, just like hand, hind, hund. It's the same thing. So com means with, pre means prior, end means hand. So it literally means with prior hand. With prior hand. My God wrote his word of love on my heart with the index finger of his right hand. That's what I comprehend.
I'm trying to figure out what are the timelines on these on these state driver's license bonds, and when are they effective, and when would they be considered not effective? I've been trying to do some research on that, and I can't really quite figure it out.
Like I said, the driver's license itself is a security instrument. You can hand that over in lieu of a bail bond. So it's the term of the license. If that license is valid and not suspended, then it's active.
Yeah, well, this is one issue where I had I have a permit situation out of California. Now they're saying that that's invalid, but the number is still there. And
they're saying what?
They're saying that that the driver's license is invalid. And the last time that I had contracted, as it were, with the reservation of rights in California, supposedly valid. Now they're saying that the permit situation, that's not valid. So I'm wondering, is it saying that the bond has no validity now, since they're saying it's not valid?
Yeah, there's if the contract terms and conditions are required to implement the statute, then how are they implementing the statute without bonding? There's no bond, and their record shows there's no bond. There's no valid contract. The license is not valid. That would be the contract. And if they're saying it's not valid, then the validity of them enforcing something that's not valid is not valid. It's void on its face.
Right. Like I'm trying to discover how they can compel me to give that information. And I mean, Monroe County down here, I'm talking to the people, the gentlemen of the bar here, and they're saying this county is a mess. And,
they all are. See, they're demanding stuff that they're not, they can't. Like I said earlier, or yesterday or the day before, when we're going over the definition of communication pursuant to 15 U.S.C. 1692C, and they have to have your handwritten consent to communicate, which means a conveyance of a debt. So if they want to talk to you about a debt in any manner, they must first have your handwritten consent. The officer doesn't have your handwritten consent.
Right. I mean, I was put in a situation where I have proper notices and credentials and everything. I wasn't even allowed to approach my vehicle to show him anything.
Yeah, and that's because they don't understand what this law stuff is. They will consistently tell you they don't know the law. This is why I urge you to do it yourself. the only way
I
you're going
was
to be able to
getting
correct
I
them.
was getting them that license information in lieu of the license, since I would, I don't even know where that thing is, but I wouldn't hand it to him anyway. As I'm writing the proper information for them to look up the person in the bonding, I had one officer's notepad in my hand with a pencil, writing these things down, while the other officer is saying, I'm going to put you in handcuffs. While I'm writing all the legitimate information on one officer's pad, I said, "Can I use that and write this information down for you so you can look it up?" He's saying, "You're being incooperative. I'm going to put you in handcuffs until we figure out blah blah blah."
The insanity. You're not being cooperative by giving us information that we need. So we're gonna, no. See, that's the thing about them forms. They want you to fill it out the way they've been instructed to fill it out, and that is their policy. It is not law. If they knew the law, they would know that you could handwrite your own instructions on it and tell them to go get fucked.
Well, I was writing some legitimate information down there, and then, of course, all the family heirlooms and that, which was, all these things are in the car, and they just get towed off, and these people act like, "Oh, we don't have any liability. We can just tow off your company car and all your junk in it, and no big deal."
Yeah, to them, no big deal.
Right. And you know what is so interesting? Past day, I was writing down, I was looking up actually Bible scriptures, and some of them you repeat enough times, Brother Keith. And so I was thinking about them in my head, and then something says, why don't you put them into a PowerPoint presentation? And I started doing that. So when I got tired last evening, I said, I'll follow through the next day. And I got the Bible, I opened it up. I really didn't look at anything prior to laying down. So when I awoke earlier today and I look at the page, what was opened up, it had the back of Titus. And then the next one was talking about the epistle of Paul to Philemon. And right at the beginning, it says name. The epistle to Philemon is a private letter, the only one of its kind, preserved in the writings of the Apostle Paul.
Yep, and understand what they're talking about there. The only private writing. All of the other writings were written through a second-hand dictation.
Exactly. And then it goes down to theme. And then it says Philemon was a resident of Colossae, apparently a wealthy slave owner who had been converted under Paul's ministry. Isn't that something? That's what we always talk about. And then it also talked about co-laborers. And that's like how we talk, what we see in that code. I think it is 18 U.S. Code 1589, where they talk about forced labor.
Yep, absolutely. The forced labor, if you understand that, any law or legal system, what is religion? What is polity? What is politics? What are politics? What is education? Those are all law or legal systems. Every last one of them. You have a private right of educating yourself through private counsel, and that is a promise shewed unto the heirs of Abraham. And all you have to do is accept his oath, his original promise, under his original seal, under his original oath. This is why I do not accept their honor. I do not accept their oath. I do not accept their promise. I do not accept their seal unless it comes in the proper form showing the full faith and credit. That is the certificates with the embossed seal and the impressed seal. That shows full faith and credit. That's your birth certificate or any other one that has two seals on it.
And you know, just like you, we've talked about before, in even in our classes with Malika, and we were going over, you know, like you were, you know, enlightening others about this equity. And so when I look in Philemon under chapter 1, verse 18, it says, if he has wronged thee or oweth thee aught, put that on mine account. And verse 19 says, I, Paul, have written it with name or with my own hand. I apologize. I have written it with my own hand, and I will repay it. Abate, I do not say to thee how thou owest unto me, even thine own self besides.
Right, and this is that Isaiah 54:17. Let no tongue shall prosper against you. And if anyone rise up in judgment against you, you're supposed to condemn them for that babble. This is the inheritance of the righteous, the inheritance of the servants of the Lord, and their righteousness is of me. That's the abatement that he's talking about. You use the correct words. And if you use somebody else's words, you might end up in a little bit of a hot spot.
Exactly. And so that's why, continuing with 20 and 21, it says, yea, brother, let me have joy of thee in the Lord. Refresh my bowels in the Lord. Having confidence in thy obedience, I wrote unto thee, knowing that thou wilt also do more than I say.
Yep, and that thing about the bowels. See, we feed on the words. That's what it's talking about with the bowels. My bowels are filled unto me because I'm full of the word of righteousness. That's what we're supposed to feed on. Thank you for that. That's why I turn to the scripture, folks, because it is inspirational. It does give you keys. It does guide if you know how to interpret it and discern it for your own use. Those scriptures are not true. They are aspects of examples that could or could not, may or may not be true.
Oh, wow.
Depending.
Look at my shit just went down.
Depending.
You know, that's because I didn't have a phone in.
It won't let me mute her mic. Oh, well, she's gone now. But that's the thing about the scriptures is as parables and examples, that's all they are. They are not truths. They can lead you to the truth in your life by helping you discern that which is babble from that which is reality and purposeful. So I don't know what happened.
So Keith, in your opinion, how do we cause these folks to recognize the difference between, say, a private passenger vehicle or private automobile and a motor vehicle, and the election of the use, as you were speaking to?
Again, it's going to be a one-on-one educational thing until we can get to a point where we can actually recover the republic form of government, which is where we have people that are willing to fulfill offices without the emoluments. You know, and this is why I talk about people of age and majority that have a discernment about them that fill these offices out of good faith and honor of the people, because they've already filled their life. They're already done with what their quality of life is, and the rest of their life they spend teaching the rest of the younger generations the very principles that they lived on that show positive attributes and prosperity and abundance for that maintaining to be careful to do good works. See, when we get these young politicians in these offices, 30 years old, that really don't have much experience in life except for education, which is indoctrination and some kind of political viewpoint that they got from mom and dad or something like that. Those are not the people that we need in office. We need people that have actual life experiences and actual discernment in those life experiences that show that they can lead a quality life, but don't need the emolument system or don't need an employment situation, because they too have acknowledged and come to the point of being a lender unto the nations. And as we talked about this morning, when we talk about that term lend or loan, that is a gift of God. Those are the kind of people we need in those political offices. Gifts of God.
Before we concur with that, I just wanted to say that I did have, on several occasions, much experience dealing with the sheriff's department and their deputies, and they seem to understand and respect what private property is. And when we're having some, when we're dealing with the police department and these young officers that they're, and foreign officers, furthermore, in this state, they tend to not have any recognition of that, and they only wish to recognize, basically what their attorney masters have told them to do, and that's causing a tremendous liability for the municipality at this point, especially in the case I'm dealing with.
Yeah, and that's one of the main things about the distinction between the sheriff and the local municipal police. The municipal police are civil. In other words, they deal with civil things, the commerce, which is always public. They're always going to operate in the capacity of offer and acceptance. The sheriff, however, is distinctly supposed to separate public from private. They're the ones that have the land jurisdiction, because that's where the public and private issues stem from. Again, they must condemn the land of its natural use, which is a private forum, and be able to convert it for its commercial purposes, which is the public side. So we have to realize the different distinctions between those different jurisdictions. And this is why we talk about duality.
It's interesting. I was speaking with one officer in Key West here at the library. And I told him I told him some things, and he said, "Would you like to come outside and have a private conversation with me?" I said, "Oh, you mean you'd like to act as a peace officer?" And he said, "Absolutely." I said, "Well, let's leave this boat here and go." And we went down onto the grass and had a conversation. And he acted as a peace officer on the grass.
See, it's interesting when you catch some of these guys that are in the know of certain things. And again, that doesn't mean they know everything, but they certainly know some certain distinctions, and that they can get their ass in a lot of trouble. And when I
he
talk
wouldn't
about
have that conversation on the library property, on the library itself. He did not want to have a private conversation with me, but he invited me to come and stand on the grass. And I made and I said, "Oh yeah, that's right. You're out to sea. Let's go out here on the on the grass." And he smiled at me, and we proceeded to have a conversation as brothers. It's quite wonderful.
Unfortunately, I think the only way we could get any kind of revenue is going after these people and maybe putting self-executing contracts into the mix and sending them notices. And if they don't answer, they agree to the terms of the contract. Right. We gotta hold them accountable somehow. I'm sick of it too. I live in Broward County, and it's just as corrupt as any of them.
Yeah, and that's what we're leading to, brother, is learning the contract terms and conditions so you can comprehend what they are, and as a holder of the instrument, you can then enforce them.
That's what they do to us.
Exactly. And so as the enforcement part, it comes down to the grammar, and they're not understanding the grammar and the placement of a public liability that you are not qualified to place.
Yep.
And they're not qualified
to definitely not understanding it. I mean, I was speaking this type of rhetoric language to that to the two officers, and they looked at me like I was like some military grade alien. And
yeah, you got to do it in court and make them look stupid on the record. Then they'll either sign an NDA with you and give you the money and make it go away or something. They don't want to be made stupid in the public record on court.
Yeah, well, and one of the things that I'm working for here in all this research, folks, is that once we comprehend the signature qualification, the directive under a letter of instruction and everything, it's because we understand the underlying securities instruments and the enforceability or voidability. In this, we learn to do the contracting for them so that it's to our benefit that they don't understand yet. So that when it comes down to situations like that, instead of having to walk into those courts, all you got to do really is hire an accounting firm that will do a forensic audit and give you the outline of the violation that you can then hand over to a private attorney to draw up a claim for those securities violations and file it to the court, not in the court, to the court for those violations before it gets entered in as a violation. That way it's treated more as a contract rather than a breach of contract. You can validate such a contract to say, well, since you've got these errors in here, I'll dismiss the errors at a cost.
Wow. That's a really excellent point you're making there, Keith. Now, interestingly enough, and I had told you that my company has a fee schedule on its private property, private passenger vehicle, and we recently drew up an invoice for all the days that it was held, and I got an attorney here in Florida that's going to go ahead and do a debt collection on the principal, and he was overjoyed to take the case. But yeah, if you know what to do with a private attorney, they can really help you out.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we have to recognize first before you go moving forward with that, brother. Does he know you're the principal? I mean, if he's a debt collector on behalf of the principal,
no, he's a debt collector on behalf of the company that I'm a counselor for. The company is hiring, not me.
Okay, so he's acting for the company, and he's considering the company the principal, and therefore, okay.
Yeah, and we just sent out an invoice, and then of course we're going to be recording that in the company's taxes, and then forgiving them of the debt, probably using a 1099-C or something in the future, so it just becomes a tax credit that they can offset debt against. So there's no argument; it's just a money transaction.
Yeah, I'd run for sheriff.
The evidence of us trying to collect the money, that's all we need to have available. So.
Yeah, I'd run for sheriff if people had enough faith in me, because I'd be one of those ones like Trump. I don't want any emoluments for that office because that's something that's supposed to be done in good faith. And when you start getting compensated for things, that kind of delineates and takes away from that good faith. So if you have somebody that's operating in good faith, or if you've got somebody that's operating without emoluments, that's more obvious to be someone that's operating in good faith for the people rather than in full faith and credit that they're going to get a paycheck at the end of the month. Big difference. And so, yeah, I would be glad to do something like that. Any kind of political office or anything, yeah, I'd be glad to do it for the people, as the people, by the people. But this is the thing that we need. It's the only way you can reform the republic is to understand that capacity, that you have to owe no man anything but to love one another. And in order to fulfill one of those offices, you have to be of the same mindset to not take an emolument, because that would mean that you're going to act just like Tiffany Henyard and tell the residents, you better pay me my taxes. That's just fucking outrageous. So yeah, thanks for the ups there. I'd be glad to do it, but again, it would depend upon the people's competency themselves in being able to understand the language, the jurisdictions, and the enforcement, because truly that's where the enforcement comes from, is the people. And so when the people let away their enforcement, somebody else is going to take over that enforcement and manipulate it through their corruptive intents and purposes for their benefit. And that's exactly what we have before us today, just like it's been many times throughout history, as it repeats itself and people reform a government, and guess what? It happens all over again, because some reason people seem to think that they can form a government and then just hand it over. No, you have to maintain your responsibility in that, otherwise it will fall apart. If you let a teenager go out and live among the world by himself, he will destroy him. He will destroy himself while he's causing harm, damage, and loss to other things and people around them. You can't do that. We can't have these young 20, 25-year-old men, women in the police enforcement. We need older people that have discernment and experience and operate in good faith automatically without pay. Not saying that they have to take upon those positions without pay, but that they would do those things first and foremost without pay. And then when you put them in the office, in that position, you still have to maintain your oversight to make sure they don't become corrupt.
Well,
That's what we've done, is we've handed over everything in convenience and comfort and just expected that, well, they wouldn't do us wrong. They're our neighbor. They like us.
Well, it all comes down to how our economy runs on profit-driven people. It's all about profit. We're not going to get anywhere doing that for another 1,000 years.
Well, yeah, and think about it. The young man that's just starting out as a police officer, and he's maybe making $48,000, which is still fucking hefty, thinks that he needs more than what he's got. So in order to impress his boss and that quota that he's got, he really amps it up. And so the next year he gets a raise, and now he's making $55,000. And he finds that works, but yet he wants even more. Now he's got 2 kids, and his wife is screaming for a new car or a van to take care of 2 kids. So he's got to really amp it up now. So now he extends his quota just so much that now he's going to get another raise the following year. Now he's going to make $62,000 a year, but it still ain't good enough. So the young man keeps growing and keeps wanting more and more, because everything that they do is dependent upon a commercial system, because you have more children. This is why they don't want you to excuse me. This is one of the things that they use to prevent you from having so many children, because when you recognize that you can have as many children as you want, provide for 18 children if that's how many you wanted, simply by doing the work yourself instead of taking upon a convenience and letting somebody else take care of it while you go work and make all this money so you can have nice things. It's all greed. So when you realize that how to get over the greed, you can have as many children as you want and feed them all just by putting in the good works that you're meant to begin with. That is how you tender life, is by tendering to Mother Earth and not to some fictional patriotic daddy.
Yeah, it always bothered me that some people think they own the planet's resources and that we all have to just take the scraps from their table.
Yep.
I just don't get it, the mentality of that.
Absolutely. And Chris, didn't you say you just recently moved down to Florida?
I kind of do the snowbird thing. I act as counsel for like half the year, and then I come down here and play professional beach bum.
Oh, okay. So are you over? So where are you at? Are you by the Keys too?
Yeah, I'm at the southernmost point just right now.
And where are you at Ascent of Mind?
I'm Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, so you're north there.
Yeah, I'm north of him.
Okay. I'm having I talked to several gentlemen of the bar, as it were, in different places here in Florida, and every single one of them is saying the same thing about Monroe County, is that that it's what we say, old boys club here, and everybody knows each other, and there's like multiple layers of horrible corruption. They don't even want to. Most of the attorneys don't even want to mess with doing anything down here.
Yeah, that's just pure laziness. That's just pure laziness, though. And another one is Florida down there. They work on adverse property possession, guys. They do have adverse possession. You can go down there and claim any land that's been abandoned, and they have no problem with it. They want people down there upkeeping the land and making it look nice and everything, because they don't employ people to go out and maintain it because of all the wildlife and natural habitat. They don't want to go around and all of a sudden have to be required according to law. This is the plastic straw law stuff, the mentality of plastic straw law, that they don't want to have to take care of the maintenance of the natural wildlife creatures that are invasive creatures, such as the pythons and stuff. They would rather have natural landowners that are taking care of that themselves, because they have their own interest in keeping those kind of creatures off of their property, to protect their own livestock, animals, pets, and stuff like that. So it belays that the adverse possession is not only to your benefit, but to the state's benefit, if you're truly going to be a steward to the land. It's the only way it's going to work.
Every single real estate company down here is using that. And back in the 90s, my grandfather made himself quite a wealthy man by getting swampland and selling it to corporations and tourists. And it's where that I got some swampland in Florida to sell you.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have any problem with swampland, guys. I have no problem, because one of my intents, one of my plans, one of my dreams, one of my imaginations when I rest and dwell is that one day I'll have a houseboat and a boathouse to put it in.
I found a couple that you might be interested in acquisitioning down here, there, or we might just build you one, because I found an old harbor that needs to be rebuilt, and I have half of mine to acquisition that and then rebuild the harbor, so we could do that and then build you a houseboat.
Absolutely, and that's one of those perfect ideas.
So.
Go ahead, say that again. I'm sorry, I overtalked.
I'm a master carpenter. I've been doing carpentry for 35 years, so I can build anything.
Yeah, and that's all it takes is, you get a little harbor like that, you can, like I said, adverse possession is very equitable remedy outside of the law that you can act upon naturally and make it a cooperative agreement with the state, so that not only are you going to build a little community there in the harbor for people that have houseboat vessels and stuff, but you're going to have some vendor-like areas that will help accommodate them, as well as the people in glamping type capacity as far as those houseboats go, as well as boondocking as far as that goes. You got people that are going to come spend a long time there. You're going to have people that are just passing through, and all of those people, as part of the pay or payment system or the credit system, the equal consideration system, is that while they're there, they partake in help stewarding the land by being observers and reporters and maintenance care workers of that land, letting you know if there's an alligator on the property that might be a danger to somebody's pets or something. So rather than shooting it, you just remove it. You've got people that are capable of removing things like that. You see a giant Burmese python slithering across the land, you can call the local pet authorities or animal authorities to animal control to come get it and do what is humane with it. You know, that's the stewardship part. That's taking
So
an
we wanted to
interest.
do that. If we wanted to do that, we want to give notice and like kind of go look up who's the last person on that block and lot number and send them a letter, a notice of intent, and follow through like that, not just move on to an abandoned lot because you evaluate that it's abandoned. You want to give your notices first, right?
Absolutely. You want to be, in order to receive equity, you must first bring equity. The first thing about equity is your observances and your intent and the ability to be able to translate those or transmit them to for a proper interpretation. That's all it is.
I just wanted to clarify that because somebody's going to be listening to this.
Yeah, it's all negotiation. It's all a negotiation and a matter of instrumenting it. And if you want to instrument it in your benefit, you can't do it somewhere in the middle. You've got to be mindful of it at all times. It has to be a lifestyle, and you have to be able to implement it right from the start.
Yep, with clean
in everything.
hands.
Yep, absolutely.
Now, I also heard that not heard, but I actually read a book called "It's Illegal to Abandon." The essence of it is that if you allow a property to disintegrate in value by lack of maintenance, that is qualified as an act of abandonment.
Yep.
And most of these real estate companies are not keeping things up properly with their claims. So a good portion of them are in abandonment. And
yeah, and a lot of that has to do with your local ordinances for landscape and maintenance. So here in Iowa, we have these damn lawn codes that say your grass can only grow so long. So we have a few people in the community that have solved that problem. And instead of having any grass, they just removed all the grass, replaced everything with rock, and planted all their plants in their yard. And they have hundreds of them, but no grass.
Well, I had a very interesting experience. I put a note on a property. I wanted to find out whether it was abandoned or not, and because it appeared that way, and I left a note there. And sure enough, 3-4 days go by, and they had a whole crew in there upkeeping the place because they didn't want me to have a claim.
Oh yeah, they're sneaky fucks. See, and that's why I say again, this seems to be information that a lot of people don't know, but don't let that fool you. There are plenty of people in the right places that do know that will do certain things to prevent you from making a claim. But again, you have to understand they don't have any valid claim to it if it's for commercial purposes, because again, the land shall not be sold forever, for it is mine, and ye are strangers and sojourners with me. So I got to ask, who the fuck gave them the right to condemn it?
Yeah. Well, somebody was paying attention. I was just trying to get myself a commercial property up in Miami, but yeah, my notice kind of spoke to my intent, and they had someone on it within 3 days, which my notice kind of said.
Contract terms. See, they recognize the contract terms and the immediacy. In order to be able to rebut it appropriately according to the contract, they had to do it in 3 days. Yeah,
they had to do it in 3 days. I said 72 hours. Either let me know or whatever. And sure enough, the guys are across the street, like doing everything that to upkeep it. They didn't have the grass cut. They didn't take care of the graffiti on the wall. They had busted windows, like everything that indicated it was abandoned.
Yep.
But
all right.
Yeah, they were. That's how these real estate companies operate down here.
Yeah, and that's again, You know, I hope tonight's video on driver license in lieu of bail kind of helps correlate that stuff with these commercial contract terms and conditions. All you have to do, again, it's uniform throughout all jurisdictions. So it's just a matter of finding like wording and being able to, like I said, bring the quality terms to the contracts that will benefit you, whether you're actually involved in the contract or partaking of the contract as a third-party benefactor for its benefit through a beneficiary. Very, very concise language. And if you understand that last thing I just said, that's how you can make a distinction to them, showing them that you know the exact terms, definitions, and qualifications of each one of those capacities. The benefactor for the benefit through a beneficiary.
So what would
No,
be,
I think that
what would
I
be
think
a
all
good
that works because
endorsement?
they deposited all the property into the trust right after the bankruptcy. All property went into the trust. It became government property.
Well, yeah, that's the military possession, or for the Army or the United States. And again, the
So
president of
that's
the
why they
United
have to maintain it.
Well, that's the president. You have to remember too, the president of the United States is the commander in chief, and that's a military capacity. So the United States is the military, and the military is the United States. That is a corporate entity for distribution or disbursement of fiat paper, known as commercial paper.
So if they're not going to use it for military purposes, then a civilian can.
Civilians military.
Okay, so when they say civilian authority, I would have to say that that's an educated military militiaman, right?
No.
Non-commissioned.
Non-commissioned military, but not militia. Militia is strictly private. That's why the Constitution's First Amendment cannot be abridged. That's a private right, not a public right. It's a private right to be able to bear arms to protect your ability of an armorial bearing. To know where thy came from.
Right, that was the right to bear arms, armorial bearing, not the right to bear cannons.
Correct.
They didn't write the word cannons or guns in there. Or firearm.
All right, well, with that, we're already over 2 hours. And we're going to go ahead and end it. It's getting 11:20 here. So anything on the way out, guys?
I was just saying, what would be a good endorsement for that negotiable instrument I'm doing? There's like 4 or 5 of them, but I haven't decided which one yet.
Well, yeah, it's again learning how to apply these different terms to yourself and your situation, so that you can extract the benefit out of it that you're supposed to have, without being detrimental to the other party, without making threats or accusations, but yet somehow letting them know of the detriment that is there if they don't act in good faith.
I wanted to bring something up really quickly. Maybe we could do a little research on it and talk about it another time, since you're trying to settle up here. But President Trump gave the folks, the citizens at least, out here what's called the OA-091 form, which is a complaint form that bypasses the FBI and goes right to the Attorney General's office. And I was thinking possibly to be in use of that. And I want to know maybe what your thoughts were on that. That's a criminal complaint dealing with public servants and the like.
Well, yeah. See, and that's the authority of the Attorney General in his true capacity, is he's the door to common law. He is subject to the common law. He is obligated to the common law, must recognize the common law, And it is because of that, his specific duty, or because his specific duty is to prosecute public servants who are violating law. Again, the ones that are required to carry ID, to be represented in those courts under their corporate capacity for which they are performing a public service in the public trust. Now it is the benefactor who is the one that is supposed to be able to communicate with the Attorney General and not the FBI. So I think you're right on track. Again, it's the access of the federal courts in personam with equity merging with common law that is accessed through the attorney, state attorney at, any attorney that is subject to the state's attorney, prosecuting attorney, and they all are.
Right.
He's the head of the state bar. That's why he's the state's attorney.
Right. Now, the thing that I was going to do is just go ahead and put a nice restrictive endorsement on that complaint form, but not really fill it out, and then put it like an affirmation, a witness affirmation addendum to it, and maybe they have somebody that went to fill out the form class that could fill that out for me. That's kind of how I was going to approach that complaint form.
Well, you can just take that complaint form and attach it to your handwritten statement of events, and use the complaint form step by step as a construction for your complaint.
Could you articulate that one again?
As per item one on complaint form such and such, the facts are. As to item number 2 on complaint form, the facts are And
okay, that's nice. That's nice, because they really don't give a whole lot of room to write. So that's a nice way to do it. Yeah. Okay.
Right. And then you just attach it as an amended informal witness statement of averment.
Right. And then, of course, my restrictive endorsement would be, so now, maybe you could give me a different suggestion, but the way that I've signed their forms previously, I go, since we're playing under surety subrogation situations, at least in my situation, I go by : last name first, first name last, for all first, middle, last, all uppercase, and then void where prohibited by law, and without prejudice, and like this with a restrictive endorsement demonstrating that I'm simply acting as an agent for the principal.
Yeah, that's what you're doing, folks. Is if you're going to operate in the legal capacity, it would be Keith Little, or by Keith Little, for whatever they named you in the citation, or whatever the name is on the license, or whatever name is on the employee ID. However, what grammar they're going to use for that part of it. So it would be by Keith Little for, say it's the driver's license, it says Little, all uppercase, comma, Keith. Then I would put for Little, all uppercase, comma, Keith, all uppercase. And then I would sign it. If I'm going to do it in the capacity,
I was saying it a little different.
Yeah,
I was thinking,
and that's what I'm saying. Listen, let me finish. That would be for the legal capacity. In the capacity Chris is talking about is the natural capacity of the benefactor by the grammar style. That's what you're doing when you qualify your signature, is using specific grammar style to denote the capacity for which the signature is below. Because I don't care what document you sign or what capacity you sign in, you don't change the signature. It's always going to be the same. It's a usual course of writing. So it's always going to look similar. It's the capacity for which you qualify. It's the capacity for which you qualify in the grammar above it for the signature. And that's what nobody's been taught. They've not been taught the different capacities to sign in.
That's what I was wondering.
Without prejudice. without prejudice means that one should not prejudice any rights that I might have in the contract. So I do believe that would cover the right of subrogation. So I don't have to write that subrogee or
without prejudice. Again, it's a judicial element. That's why it's judice.
Right.
It's an adjudication saying that there is something necessary to be adjudicated, and without prejudicial, it means it's not judicial. Your yea is your yea, your nay is your nay. There is no other value. That's what prejudicial or without prejudice means. There is no other value.
Right, like they're not doing tender, they're doing pre-tender.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I talk about the Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, Congress shall lay and collect taxes, duties, and imposts and excises. Impost is for imposters, imposters. Quit pretending. So anyway, anybody else with words on the way out?
Brother Keith, I have some information. I text you some of the information before, and I'm kind of working on some things, and I will try to maybe pass it on to you next day or later. And then maybe you'll be able to create a video because it's pertaining to like the Christian name, it's pertaining to the church, it's pertaining to what is called the Church Discipline Act and so forth. So I'll work on it, and then I'll make sure I'll send it over to you.
Yeah, and that's relative, sister, to the 5 Mile Act.
Okay.
So look that up. It's a real short read on Wikipedia or something like that. You can find several sources for it, but it talks about its 5 Mile Act, and it talks about the expulsion of nonconformists within the corporate community. So in other words, if you're not going to follow the local ordinances, they're going to kick you out of town, and they're going to kick you out at least 5 miles outside of town. And that's based on nonconformists, people that refuse to conform to the commercial codes of the corporate centers. And remember, folks, the Vatican is the central point of origin of all commerce in the world.
That's interesting that you say that, because I've got many reports here in the Keys that after the third time that someone gets arrested, they tell them that they have to leave town and not come back, or they're gonna keep them indefinitely.
Not here, evidently.
And it's interesting that you say that, brother, because I know someone who it actually happened to them. And after the last time they had pardoned them and they wanted them to restart their life over. And they were told as long as they didn't return to the state in which the incidents occurred, that, they were free to live their life however. So I am just the one to co-sign on just what you just said. I yield.
Yeah. Well, my brother, my biological brother, he's doing life in California for a couple murders. Now, this guy, when we were all put up in foster homes and stuff, he didn't do too well with it. He was at an age where he took it worse than I did. And so if you think I was bad when I told everybody, fuck you, you're not my daddy, it was 10 times worse with him. And so he never ended up being adopted. He floated through his entire life in all kinds of foster homes, orphanages, detention facilities and everything. And he was literally kicked out of 6 states that I know of. 6 states he was kicked out of. And and if you think I've got an extensive history, again, he's 10 times worse. He's got hundreds of charges throughout the states.
Oh, wow.
So I'm an angel compared to him. So when people think of me as an angry old man and they really don't know me, this is 10%. on this metaverse, this is just 10%. This is the tip of the iceberg, and you still only seen 10% of that. I have so much more to show you about me and my life, but yet what you do know about me, most people take it as if though I'm this rotten, dirty bastard hitting people upside the head with shovels and stabbing them with forks and stuff. That's not me. That's only a portion of my story, and it's only when the story is done and told and over with, like the poem I read this morning, or his words. Everything that happens through me, by me, or from me, or whatever, it's all him. He created both darkness and light. So all I can do is do what he tells me. When I let go of everything else that I was making out of my own determinations, that's when I realized the bad decisions were gone. I wasn't making bad decisions because I was making them for myself. Now I'm making decisions based on what I feel in my heart and what comes through me from him. And there are no bad decisions. It's been nothing but correcting things along the way, and everything seems to work out just fine for me and my companion, but yet everybody else screams for proof, and the only way they will accept proof is through a goddamn court that they don't want to deal with, but they expect me to show my proof through those courts.
And you know, brother, that is interesting that you say that, because I was very well listening to everything you said very carefully and very observant. And then my eyes caught the scriptures of Titus, which is the verse of chapter 3, verses 14 and 15, which says, let ours also learn to maintain good works for necessary uses, that they be not unfulfilled. All that, and it says, and all that are with me salute thee. Greet them that love us in the faith. Grace be with you and all. And I'll leave it there. I yield.
Yeah, and that's that. To feed a man a fish, you feed him for a day. To teach him to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. But again, the true principle is that you teach him to teach. That's maintaining good works. Your good works are your merits. But to maintain them is to pass them on to others so they can be careful to maintain them as well. This is the good faith in the contracts. It's the only way you can do it, folks. So, yes, appreciate that.
That's why they said the only way you can love, you have to love yourself first before you can love anyone else.
Know thyself, heal thyself, love thyself. Absolutely. And with that, folks, we are done. We are out. We are past the 11:30 mark, 2.5 hours tonight. I will be back tomorrow, hopefully in the morning. If not, you'll see me tomorrow night. And with that, you know I love you. I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back.
All right. Well, we appreciate you and love you as always, Keith.
Appreciate you, Keith.
Absolutely. And that's to say I don't. And that's to say I don't care if you hate me. So make sure God bless you.
We love you.
I'm sure there's those out there that love to hate you, but we love you all the way.
Absolutely. And all glory goes to him. All glory goes to him. So
yeah,
God bless. So God bless and have a good night, everybody. We'll see you next time. Make sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button on the way out. And there is a PayPal link for anybody who wants to share some love. All is appreciated. And I hope you have a good night, guys. Bye.
Good night.